I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Rachin Kalakheti, founder of Cedro Finance. Rachin, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashton. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Excited to dive into DeFi, multi-chain, what Cedro Finance has been working on for a while, and I believe is going to be launching an exciting launch in the very near future. I would love to start off by just hearing a little bit about what is Cedro Finance from a high level and how does it interact with DeFi? And then we'll dive into all the details.
Perfect. So Cedro Finance, if we have to say it in one line, what I would say is it's a cross-chain liquidity layer. And basically the main points, the main problems that we're trying to solve is liquidity fragmentation. And hence, by unifying that, we're trying to improve the capital efficiency of the overall DeFi space or the liquidity in it. So that's pretty much how we describe it.
And I'd love to dive into that a little bit more. You know, when people look in traditional finance, there is a huge focus on efficient capital markets and making sure that there's efficiency. And because DeFi is newer, it's not as efficient. And there's also, I think, a fragmentation of the different blockchains and probably other issues that you are aware of as well. Can you talk about capital efficiency in DeFi right now and what are sort of the main problems?
Sure. So, I mean, the main problem here is the main advantage of blockchain itself, which sounds quite contrary because so the blockchains that are designed to be isolated from outside world, right? So for one blockchain, any other blockchains in existence looks like an outside world as well. So it doesn't differentiate between another blockchain and other off-chain aspects. So everything else is off-chain for one blockchain. So that's their perspective. And that way, what happens is like, it's hard to get access to capital from one blockchain to another blockchain. So now what happens is, as a user, instead of having this one liquidity layer, you have to you have to have your account on blockchain A, blockchain B, blockchain C, blockchain D, all of which do not interact with each other. Like your capital inside blockchain A will be able to interact with other liquidity inside blockchain A. Same with blockchain B, C, and D. But the problem is all of them do not interact with each other. Like that way, the liquidity is so fragmented across all the chains. And now we have the modular narrative where we have a lot of modular blockchains, lots of rollups, lots of mix of both. And as we keep on increasing the number of blockchains, this problem just gets worse and worse. And just like we are there, like our goal is to try and solve that is what we're trying to do. So the fragmentation part is there, and the way it leads to inefficiency in capital is for example, Manta, they launched their token recently, right? They launched their mainnet that's so active. Initially you don't have a lot of funds there. Users still want, so like you have funds. So as a user, say you have funds on Avalanche or Solana, but you still want to participate in all this activity that's going on in Manta. Maybe you want to capture some yield. Maybe you want to token like airdrop farm or anything, right? But it's very hard for you to right now. The option is you either go to centralized exchange, send your token from Solana to a centralized exchange. From there, withdraw it to Manta if the centralized exchange supports Manta. But then even then, there is centralized issue. The whole point is we're just trying to move away from the centralized model as much as possible. And at the same time, and that's as a space, right? And at the same time, the next thing is the other thing that you could do is use a bridge, which again has lots of issues that we've already seen in the past. I don't even think I have to dive much deeper into that. So what we do is instead of bridging or having to go through centralized exchange or through this lending mechanism, what we let you do is we let you say you have Sol on Solana. Now you want to borrow, Stone on Manta, right? Now what you have to do is you lend your Sol on Solana on our platform, on our smart contract there, and then you can use that as collateral to borrow Stone on Manta seamlessly. Like it's as if like you're using a single chain lending and borrowing application. Like UX has been one of the main problem that we have been trying to solve as well. And as a part of that, we try to make sure the user experience doesn't change much. So apart from having to change networks, while performing transactions across chains, like you feel like you're interacting. The flow is exactly like a single chain lending and borrowing application. So everything inside a single UI, every chain, every asset, it's encapsulated inside a single UI, and so I feel like yeah, it's gonna be pretty obvious in the future that like the UX work we've done is like very powerful. Yeah.
That's very exciting. I'm excited to see the user interface for Cedro when the mainnet happens, especially because that is a major barrier, as just time and confusion of trying to get through all the different bridges or exchanges and like making it easy so that you can lend and borrow on multiple chains while acting like it's one unified chain. And
Yep.
that was a great example with the Manta network. I also did try bridging into Manta. And you have to find a way. Usually you already have funds on another chain. It's like, how am I going to get to this new chain easily and quickly? And you're right that there are new chains like Manta coming out, and there's people trying to bridge to them. There's so many chains coming out right now. I'm curious on where is that balance for Cedro Finance in finding the most blockchains to connect to or the best blockchains to connect to. Where is the team focusing initially on where is the value locked in DeFi, or how do you choose which blockchains are the most important for Cedro Finance at the beginning?
So like yeah, we've thought about this a lot, and like the one thing that we agree on is the fact that like for a lending and borrowing protocol, there is two sides. Like right, there's one side that's supply side, there's other is like a borrow side of things, and the way we're thinking about it, the supply side of things, it's going to come more from these highly liquid chains like Ethereum, BNB, stable ones, right? And the OGs. And then the more borrow side of things is going to come from these new and upcoming chains like Manta, Say, and a lot of these other like upcoming chains, mostly like tokenless projects as well. And yeah, so because like there's going to be a lot of demand over there for assets, and you'd want to borrow that. So yeah, so the way we're seeing it is we want to support like a few highly stable and liquid chains, and at the same time we want to support a set of these new and upcoming chains as well, and like help users get their liquidity on that chain without worrying about anything else. And but at the same time, like we have to be very careful with the chains that we add, because we cannot just go around recklessly adding new and new chains. The problem there is like if one of the chains goes down, it's going to have some sort of impact on the protocol as well. So that way, yeah, we have to be very careful on what chains we choose. But it's very easy to find I guess like top 5 or top 10 chains that are like rising and are liquid and already has some validation from users. Yeah, we can support those kind of chains. But yeah, later on our roadmap, we have plans for permissionless deployment for these lending, permissionless deployment on any chains that we want to support using isolated pool model. But for now, yeah, we have to find that optimal balance between the number of chains and the quality of the chains that we want to support. So I mean, even right now, yeah, there are activities happening on say like 10 different chains, but yeah, the thing is yeah, it's not going to happen on like 100 of other chains as well, right? Like there's always going to be that 80% rule, 80-20% rule, right? Like 20% of the chains are controlling 80% of the activity. So yeah, I guess we were trying to follow that kind of rule, like trying to tap into ecosystems that are highly liquid, highly active for now, and then like when we expand, make it more permissionless to deploy on different chains, and eventually the final goal is to be able to support any like most of the chains in existence. Yep.
No, that's a great answer, Rachin, and it makes sense that you're going to want to be doing the supplying from Ethereum, Solana, Binance, where the most total value locked is right there, and also looking at new chains that are more lucrative but not as risky if they're one that no one's heard of or something that's too new. And speaking of risk, I'm curious on how Cedro Finance helps mitigate risk for the users. You know, there's many types of risk involved, whether it's liquidity provision risk or cross-chain or decentralization or new chains, other risks, understanding those risks and trying to mitigate them. You know, the last thing somebody would want would be to get liquidated when they didn't understand on a new chain. Can you talk about the risk factors and mitigating them and making it a safe and understandable and secure experience on Cedro Finance?
Yep. Yeah, totally. Like that's a very important topic to talk about. And the way that we've thought about it is like, yeah, like UX is there, like, you know, unifying the fragmented liquidity is there, all of that is there, but people are not going to use it if they don't feel this is secure, right? So security has been one of our main priorities from the very beginning, and there are multiple risk mitigation risk mitigation models that we've deployed on our smart contracts. So one of the simplest, so starting from the simplest, one of the things that we have is asset cap for each of the pools that we support. So say we initially support a chain that is not so that is active, but the problem with new and upcoming chains is they're not battle tested yet, right? So even if a chain is doing well right now, there could be a bug in their system, and then there could be a huge collapse that could happen, which then would have cascading effect on all the other liquidity providers on our protocol. So to mitigate that, we're introducing the supply cap on each of the assets that we support. So initially, when you support a new and upcoming chain, we will have a cap added to it, so that it doesn't affect, so that we can contain the damage if it ever happens there, and slowly remove that cap over time once the chain becomes more battle tested. And at the same time, what we are also doing is we are introducing, we're going to talk more about Cult later on, but there's also a risk mitigation model for that as well, which took a lot of time for us, but totally worth it. And at the same time, we also have multiple oracles in place, because one of the major problems with lending and borrowing protocols is that we are a bit more reliant on oracle pricing compared to other DeFi products. As a lending and borrowing protocol, that's universal overall across DeFi. But to mitigate that as much as possible, we've made arrangements so that if the price deviation is more than a certain percentage for a particular asset, we pause the market for a bit, and then look into what happened. And this is going to be quick with bots and stuff, but if the fault is from the oracle itself, we will switch to our secondary oracle, and that way we kind of remove the central point of failure as well. And this has been our thesis as well, not having any central point of failure at all. So that way it's like that. And at the same time, since our liquidity pools, they are spread across multiple chains, liquidity pool on one chain, something happening on a liquidity pool on one chain should not affect a lot on the other chains. And finally, one of the most important things that we've done is create a new system of liquidation, where when liquidation happens, the reason a lot of people are scared of liquidation is because, for example, in Aave, say you have like $5,000 in collateral. Now like your position is underwater by say like $5, right? Now what happens is like your like 50% out of your $5,000 collateral is allowed to be liquidated, even though like your position was only underwater by $5.
Wow.
So that's like a fixed value there, and also like so the problem there is like they have fixed like closing factor and the amount that you can be the percentage of the collateral that you can liquidate at a time, and then the liquidation bonus, the bonus you get for liquidating an asset is also fixed, which can cause multiple problems. Like back in the days when I think 2022 November when Avi Heisenberg attacked Aave with CRB. We saw that to be pretty evident, like how that model could affect the pricing and how that could send an asset into a toxic liquidation spiral. So because like sometimes because of the fixed liquidation incentive, even when you liquidate, like the position is not gonna get healthier. So so in that condition, you have to make sure that incentives are not there, so that the liquidation may stop for a while. Like others could still find the liquidation to be profitable, but like there are no incentives there. So so we've made both of these factors dynamic, so that like say your position is underwater by $5, we make sure that we only liquidate an amount proportional to that. We have to liquidate a bit more so that there's a breathing room for the position, but not a lot. Like to find the exact number, we have to do the math, but it's not a lot than it's not a lot more than $5, and for sure it's not like 50% of all your positions. So so yeah, these are the things that we are placing and we are putting in place. And us being DeFi users as well for a long time, we know the pain points, and we want to make sure that like we solve that as well. So this way, like thinking from a user's perspective, we've been able to design a protocol and feel like it's going to be a lot more evident once we go live and people start using it.
Yeah, no, great explanation, especially when it comes to liquidity risk. I think that's probably one of the most important risks that the user is taking on themselves, that they should understand, and depending on how much leverage they're doing or what kind of positions they're taking. So liquidity is very important, and low liquidity is not good, especially with fragmented chains, which is why we need Cedro Finance to hopefully unify these. And you mentioned their cult, which from what I understand is some unified liquidity token. Can you explain how that helps with the liquidity or just risk mitigation?
Yep, totally. So so like we have talked about the liquidity fragmentation across chains, but one more thing, something even deeper, is liquidity fragmentation across a single asset. So for example, you see USDT, for example, it's deployed on multiple chains, right? But USDT on Ethereum, for example, is not treated as the same as USDT on BNB chain or like on AVAX or any other chains that USDT supports. So essentially, they're treated as different assets. So even if you go to bridges or any cross-chain or any like multi-chain application these days, what you'll see is 10 different pools for USDT, right? USDT from this chain, USDT from that chain, chain C, chain D, all of that. But what like they're essentially the same asset. But so like I got this inspiration from like centralized exchanges where like when you deposit USDT, for example, or like you deposit ETH, for example, it doesn't tell you like you deposited USDT from this chain, you can only withdraw USDT from this chain. You cannot withdraw USDT to any other chains that we support. So so they just have this one unified liquidity pool for all the assets they support. Like USDT, for example, is just one pool regardless of which chain it has been deposited from, and then you are allowed to withdraw from any of the other chains that they support as well. So so like we wanted to make sure we achieve that as well. And this is the feature that took us a long time as well, because if we were to release without that particular feature, I think we would have done it probably like 6 months earlier. And yeah, so how it actually works is like, say like you deposit 100 USDC or USDT from say you deposit 100 USDT from Ethereum, 100 from BNB, and 100 from say Avalanche. What happens is like it will look as if you deposited 300 USDT, like and like no chains involved at all. So we are abstracting away the concept of chains from multi-chain assets as well. And the benefit of that is like the problem with decentralized finance is that we have low liquidity, and like because of that, there's a lot of fluctuation, a lot of volatility, and in our case, it's on the interest rate, and like because like it is so easy to manipulate, right? Because of so low liquidity, and because like we are aggregating the liquidity of multi-chain assets from across all the chains, like the liquidity of USDT, for example, would look like liquidity of USDT of all the chains combined. So it would be much harder for you to like manipulate the interest rates. And at the same time, the interest rate that users earn is spread across all the USDT pools that it supports. So if USDT is high in demand on one chain, like that particular like interest rate on that particular chain should go up, but we spread that around to all the other USDT pools across all the chains, so that there's equal incentives, and we have people depositing from across all the chains. So like I said, that's pretty much what Cult is. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people think it's a token. Should have gone with a better name, but I think it was cool to name it Cult. And yeah, this is something that we're really excited about.
That is very exciting, and I could see why that would take many months to develop properly, but I feel like it's necessary for DeFi platforms, especially when you're introducing multiple new chains with low liquidity, to unify that liquidity. And
Yep.
and I love that idea. Hopefully in the future, you won't see a new chain and then the risk is so much different on the same stable coin on a different chain.
So yeah, that part we have to be very careful about. Like right now, with our model, we should only support chains and assets that are already battle tested and have been around for a while, and with high amount of liquidity. That is our criteria for this so with this particular model. And yeah, I think as a test or like a proof of concept, this model, this V1 of Cult should work really well for now. And then once we see enough demand, once we see enough utilization, we can work towards making it more accessible, even for like riskier chains as well.
So I'd love to understand a little bit more on where exactly Cedro Finance is at right now and the next steps for the main launch.
So yeah, we have been in development for about a year now, a little over a year, and yeah, like took a lot longer than we expected it to, honestly. And currently we are done with our smart contract, locked it, going through our fourth and final audit, and the plan is to launch our mainnet anywhere from mid of February to end of February. Could go possibly could go beyond that as well. Nothing set yet, but this is the timeline we're working at right now, working around the clock to make sure that we actually deliver on that. Like we want to get it out there as soon as possible as well, but we just have to make sure that this is all perfect, all done correctly, because like product development on Web3 is like a lot different than development on Web2. Like in Web2, it's like you make fast, break fast, and all that. But in Web3, since like from day one, you're playing with people's money, and like everyone can see your code and all of that. Like you have to make sure that your code is perfect. So you have to make it fast and you have to make it perfect as well. So like when there's like a trade-off between two, we'd rather choose on making it secure or perfect rather than delivering fast, right? So that is how we think about it, and that's why we've gone through multiple audits as well. Like 4 audits. I don't think a lot of protocols do that even before mainnet launch, because we were very, very paranoid about getting hacked, and we really don't want that. So we're just making sure like we give our best on that side. So yeah, we've done multiple audits, external audits. We have a couple of people doing internal audits around the clock as well. So we do internal audits ourselves, and then we go to external auditors. So a like good chunk of our resources we've allocated to making sure that we are creating a perfect application.
No, that's great to hear. And with where you're at right now, is there a incentivized testnet or some ways that people can get involved prior to the launch, or contribute or help, or find some way to get in on day one?
Yeah, so we are like right now we're planning our point system that we'll launch alongside our mainnet. Right, but currently we have a testnet going on. It's been going on for about a year now, and yeah, I guess the best way anyone can support us is or like get like I don't know, get make sure that they are the forefront in the community is by using our testnet, just spreading words about Cedro as much as possible, because that is what we want. And we want to make sure that people at least hear about us. Like, the only reason I want Cedro to fail is because it was not a useful product, rather than it being a useful product, but no one heard of it, or like no one never cared to use it, right? So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. That is the worst thing that can happen, right? And yeah, so we want to make sure people know about it as much as possible. So yeah, anything that helps this word spread around would be really, really helpful for us.
Sounds great. Rachin, I can leave the Discord, the Twitter, the socials, the platform protocol links as well in the show notes below. I really do appreciate your insights into decentralized finance and cross-chain, and also risk mitigation and unified liquidity, things that I haven't heard on the show in quite a while, if ever, at least this stage of DeFi. I think we're moving into the next big wave of adoption for DeFi, now that we've seen the ETF come in with big players in Bitcoin. They're probably going to start moving into Ethereum and DeFi, and then there's going to be a lot of players moving in. So I feel like this is a really good time to be launching a product like this, especially when there's so many different blockchains coming out as well. So I'm looking forward to that mainnet launch for Cedro Finance. I will be following along, and let's definitely follow up in the near future.
For sure, Ashton. Thank you so much for giving us the platform to talk about Cedro and help us spread the word around. I think this is really important and would help us a lot in the future. Like, this is going to have a big like compounding effect. And yeah, like really appreciate us. Really appreciate you giving us your time.